The 2009 to 2014 Acura TL sedan. Out of all the used cars I've tested, the TL of this generation is actually one of my most favorite driving cars. I really appreciate it. And I also like the way this generation looks. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the looks of this TL. But I think it has a unique presence to it. I know it has kind of a bulbous design. That's kind of what they were going for with this vehicle. But I personally enjoy it. I would like to hear your thoughts. But in this video, I'm going to cover what this vehicle is, some basic specs, and then we're going to talk about some interesting facts that you probably did not know regarding this vehicle. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the various changes that happened between the different model years. Okay, so what is the TL? Well, it's a mid-size sedan of sorts. The funniest thing about most Acura vehicles is they technically don't really compete with anything. It's a very interesting way that Acura decides to position their products. So in their press release, they initially said that it's supposed to compete with things like the BMW 3 Series and the 5 Series. And then they claim that it's supposed to compete with the Audi A4 and then the A6, the Mercedes C-Class, the E-Class, the G35 and the M35 Infinities, and then pretty much all the Lexus sedans, the IS, the GS, and the ES. This TL is technically supposed to compete with all those vehicles. So as you can see, it's very interesting how Acura positions their car. It's not really competing with anything. So I guess during the time when these vehicles were out, it kind of meant that the journalists shouldn't be too hard on the vehicle when critiquing it. I guess that's kind of what they were going for. Regardless, in my eyes, the Acura products were always a great value proposition in the United States. It's seen as a prestigious brand. You're getting a very large vehicle with the TL, and it still has amazing driving dynamics. It might not be the fastest car in the world, but it certainly isn't bad. So that's what the TL is. And here's another thing I really like to read, and I like it when Acura shares this. It's the concept customer, or who the vehicle was intended for, at least in Acura's eyes. The person that Acura expected would buy the TL in 2009 was going to be a male, a professional male in his mid-40s with a household income of $100,000. That's the target buyer for a regular Acura TL. But for the TL super handling all-wheel drive, they expected the target buyer to be, once again, a professional male in his early 40s this time, with a household income of over $150,000 per year. Very interesting considering the fact that this car came out during a recession. What's more interesting to me is they expected the super handling all-wheel drive buyer to be younger than the regular TL buyer while making more money. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, let's transition and let's talk about some basic specs, because here's something interesting to note. There was a regular front-wheel drive Acura TL, and this vehicle utilized a 3.5 liter V6 engine, naturally aspirated, putting out 280 horsepower and 254 pounds-feet of torque. However, the super handling all-wheel drive package, it's not just an all-wheel drive version of the TL. The super handling all-wheel drive version of this TL is actually supposed to replace the Type S branding from the previous generation. So this is your new Type S, if you will. It's the super handling all-wheel drive. And if you don't know, this all-wheel drive system, it's one of my most favorite. It's very impressive how good it works. And once again, this is like a true sports version of the TL, not just another all-wheel drive model. And because of that, we actually have a more powerful engine here. We have a larger engine, a 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6, pushing out 305 horsepower and 273 pounds-feet of torque. So about 19 more pounds-feet of torque and about 25 more horsepower than a regular front-wheel drive TL. We had a proper suspension architecture with most of these Acura products of this era. We had a double wishbone front suspension and a multi-link rear suspension. For this model year of the TL, when it first came out in 2009, it came with a 5-speed automatic transmission, and I actually do like this transmission. It does a good job of rev matching the downshifts, things of that nature, so definitely not bad. But we do get some transmission updates later on throughout the model year, and even a manual transmission. Stay tuned till the end of this video to hear more about that. Fuel economy in 2009, it was 18 mpg in the city for the regular front-wheel drive TL and 26 on the highway. For the super handling all-wheel drive models, the MPG drops by 1, gets 17 city, 25 highway. Certainly not great MPG figures, especially when you consider the fact that most full-size V8 pickup trucks today are getting nearly that type of fuel economy. We had a 18.5 gallon fuel tank for this model year, and the front wheel drive versions of the TL came with a 17-inch wheel setup. The super handling all-wheel drive models came with an 18-inch wheel, and a 19-inch wheel was a optional extra for the super handling all-wheel drive models. Curb weight for the front wheel drive models was approximately 3,700 pounds for the front wheel drive models, and it was a touch under 4,000 pounds for the super handling all-wheel drive models. Weight distribution wasn't the best. It was 60 in the front, 40 in the rear for the front wheel drive, and it was 59 in the front, 41 in the rear for the all-wheel drive models. And other specs to note, the TL is obviously larger than the previous generation vehicle that it is replacing, as you can see by the bulbous design and shape, I guess, right? The 2009 TL is 6.2 inches longer overall compared to the previous gen, and it is 1.8 inches wider, and it's approximately a half an inch taller than the previous car. The wheelbase is 1.4 inches longer, and it's true, this is a very spacious vehicle, and this is part of the reason why the RL/RLX kind of failed, because the TL was truly an excellent product. It was a massive vehicle, drove great, in my opinion, looked great as well. So most people just saved a boatload of money going with the TL, and they didn't really see much value in paying up for the flagship during that time. But for you, the RL models, it's pretty good in the used car market, but same is true for the TL, obviously. And the TL, the other thing to note about it, as we can see with the super handling all-wheel drive, it's truly like the sports sedan model in the Acura lineup. And the car does it without sacrificing the ride quality. That's one of the things I liked about this generation of the TL. Okay, those are the basic specs that I wanted to cover. Let's go ahead and let's talk about some of these interesting facts now. So we talked about that 3.7 liter V6 found in the super handling all-wheel drive, or that sports model, if you will, of the TL. Well, it produced that 305 horsepower and 273 pounds-feet of torque. But what you probably did not know is this was actually the most powerful Acura sedan ever when it first came out with that 3.7 liter V6. And this engine is similar to the 3.7 liter V6 found in the 2009 RL sedan, but it's got some additional improvements, of course. It's got new exhaust valves as well as intakes to provide the elevated power output. We also have aluminum cylinder liners with the 3.7 liter V6 engine, as opposed to the iron cylinder liners found in the 3.5 liter V6 in the front wheel drive TL. Of course, these are VTEC engines, and these are also pretty legendary V6 engines, one of the best sounding V6 as well, mind you. That's one of the reasons why I really like this vehicle. So those are some interesting facts regarding that. We also had a proper cold air induction system. So cold air intake, it's pulling intake air from the left side of the grille ahead of the radiator, and that ensures that the incoming air is as much as 65 degrees cooler than the air in the engine compartment. So you don't have to fiddle with this, you don't have to put an additional air intake in there. It's already properly tuned from the factory for power, efficiency, and fuel economy, all of these things. Another interesting fact is in regards to the 5-speed automatic transmission. I already stated that it's a really good transmission. It's got that racing style blip feature that Acura likes to call it, but it's more like those crispy rev match downshifts, if you will. I really appreciate that. Responds really good. Comes with paddle shifters. F1 style steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, as Acura likes to call it. An interesting fact with the TL super handling all-wheel drive models, we actually have a more robust case. We also have larger shafts, larger gear clutches, and a lower drag friction material, and a new torque converter and lockup assembly. We also have an external transmission cooler, which is standard with the super handling all-wheel drive models. So those are some interesting changes to note. And because the super handling all-wheel drive model is so special, you know, replacing that old Type S model for this generation, let's talk more in detail regarding the super handling all-wheel drive package. These vehicles also get better suspension upgrades. We also get better brakes and steering upgrades as well. Once again, living up to that sports model reputation that this is supposed to satisfy. And the Acura TL for this generation does utilize an electric power steering rack. Another interesting fact is going to be the hydro compliant bushings. This is another first for the 2009 TL. It utilizes hydro-compliant bushings on the front lower suspension wishbone rather than just utilizing standard rubber bushings. These bushings are fluid filled, which increases the dampening performance. But this also improves the ride quality and reduces the brake judder vibration. However, I will say, yes, these fluid filled bushings do make a difference. It does make the vehicle a little bit more premium and higher quality to drive. You do notice the difference. However, I do think that these are going to wear out quicker than just utilizing standard rubber bushings. It's one of the problems that the Lexus LS460 suffers from. So if you're an owner of an Acura TL, please let us know how the bushings are holding up for you. We also have fluid-filled engine mounts as well. Once again, trying to be smoother and improve the NVH of the vehicle, of course. In fact, the fluid-filled hydro-compliant engine mounts see a 25% reduction in engine vibration. So yes, these fluid-filled systems, it's great. These types of bushings and engine mounts, they do certainly serve their purpose. And in general, with the new Acura TL, aside from being a larger vehicle, it's also a stiffer chassis and platform than the previous generation TL. And it's true, it does genuinely handle great, but we also see a lot of aluminum being used as well, both in the suspension components, but also in things like the hood, the front and the rear bumper beams. Total, with all of the aluminum body components, they managed to save 51.7 pounds. Some other interesting facts that you probably did not know about, it's going to be in regards to the interior space. I really like the seats in this car. It's very comfortable. You had a 10-way adjustable front driver's seat. But the interesting thing is, if you opted for the technology package, you actually got perforated full grain Milano premium leather. So the technology package was pretty sweet, came with a lot of great features, things like keyless access, the Milano leather like I mentioned, the Acura navigation system, and of course the ELS audio system, which was pretty epic, especially for its time. It was a 10-speaker unit, sounded really good. It was a 440-watt unit. We also had special acoustic windshield glass to help reduce the wind noise, as well as 5mm thick glass for all 4 of the side windows. Once again, this makes the interior a little bit quieter and more luxurious because of this thicker glass, 5mm. That's more than the typical automotive glass used in a regular vehicle. So those were some interesting facts I wanted to share with you regarding the Acura TL. As promised, I did mention that I would go through the various model year changes. 09, that's when it first came out. That's when the vehicle first got redesigned. 2010 was a pretty special year because this is the year the super handling all-wheel drive models got a 6-speed manual transmission. So if you wanted a manual transmission, 2010 and up for the super handling all-wheel drive models, that's the year that you had to look out for. 2011 actually saw no new changes, but in 2012 we got a subtle refresh with the front end styling. We also got a 6-speed automatic transmission as well, which replaces the 5-speed automatic, and because of this we saw a slightly improved fuel economy numbers, and we also got a upgraded navigation system, and apparently the vehicle got slightly quieter in 2012 as well, probably due to some extra NVH tunings and tweakings. 2013, we actually saw the debut of a special edition trim level, and somehow the crash test safety scores improved in 2013 as well. So 2012, 2013, those seem to be some pretty good model years to look out for with the TL if you're going to buy one used. And 2014, that was the last model year. We did not see any real changes for the last 2014 model year. But that's everything I wanted to share with you regarding this generation of the TL. Let me know if you're a fan of this car. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you own one. How is it holding up for you? And would you recommend this car in the used market? Do you have any other interesting facts that you want to share regarding this TL? If you do, leave them down in the comment section below. But in the meantime, I'm going to have my next video on the end screen here for you to check out. Click on it and I will see you there.